Don't pin that rank on a thief. My mother's voice cut through the promotion hall before Captain Naomi Brooks could touch the new insignia to my uniform. For 1 second, nobody moved. Nearly 200 soldiers, civilian employees' spouses, and children sat beneath the hanging flags in complete silence. A photographer stood frozen near the stage with his camera raised. In the second row, someone's phone continued live streaming, recording every face as they turned toward the center aisle. Elaine Hayes walked toward me carrying a thick white envelope. I had not seen my mother in 13 years. She looked almost exactly as I remembered her carefully styled blonde hair, pearl earrings, navy dress, and posture so controlled that every room around her felt like a courtroom. My father followed half a step behind. Gordon Hayes had aged more than she had. His shoulders curved inward, gray hair clung unevenly to his forehead. He kept his eyes on the polished floor as though he had been instructed not to look at me. Captain Brooks lowered the insignia. "Ma'am, return to your seat." My daughter stole money from a dead soldier. My mother lifted the envelope high enough for everyone to see. Her own brother, a murmur passed through the hall. I felt the small brass compass inside my uniform pocket press against my palm. My brother Daniel had given it to me before his final training rotation. The glass face carried one long scratch. The brass had darkened around the edges. On the back, he had carved 6 words with an engraving tool borrowed from a maintenance shop. "Find North before you follow anyone." My mother opened the envelope and removed a stack of bank records. These documents show that Mara Hayes accessed the education fund Daniel left for her after his death. She transferred the money into accounts under her control, then disappeared before we could hold her responsible. That allegation was never substantiated, Captain Brooks said. It was never properly investigated. My mother turned toward the audience. She ran before she had to answer for what she did. Then she hid inside the army and built a career on money, stolen from the brother who believed in her. The insignia slipped from Captain Brooks' fingers. It struck the stage with a small metallic sound. That sound hurt more than my mother's words. I had spent 13 years building a life precise enough to survive inspection. Every evaluation, every qualification, every night wearing body armor in freezing rain had carried me toward this moment. Now the new rank lay on the floor between my boots. My father finally looked up. Our eyes met. There was no defense in his face. No apology. Only the same exhausted silence he had worn the night I was thrown out of our house. Then his right sleeve pulled back. A deep red mark circled his wrist. Not a watch line, not a random bruise. A narrow pressure mark, nearly even, crossed by a second abrasion on the inside of his arm. Something had been tightened around him. He saw me looking and pulled his sleeve down. My mother noticed. Her expression did not change, but she moved closer to him. Captain Brooks stepped between us. "This ceremony is suspended until the documents are examined." The word suspended moved through me like cold water. Not cancelled, not denied, suspended. It should have felt different. It did not. My mother smiled at me with the calm satisfaction of someone watching a lock turn. "You can put on any uniform you want," she said. "You're still the girl who took money from her dead brother." I closed my fingers around Daniel's compass until the brass edge dug into my skin. The needle trembled behind the scratched glass. By midnight, the woman who called me a thief would be begging me to shut off a body camera she was certain had already died. But in that moment, standing over the rank I had not been allowed to receive, I still did not understand why my parents had returned. I only knew they had not come for justice. They had come because something had frightened them. And whatever it was had followed them to my promotion ceremony. Daniel taught me to use a compass when I was 17. We were hiking through low mountain fog outside our hometown. I had been following a line of footprints through damp pine needles, assuming whoever made them knew where they were going. 20 minutes later, we reached the same fallen cedar we had already passed. Daniel leaned against it and laughed. "You followed somebody in a circle." They looked confident. Most lost people do. He took the brass compass from his jacket and placed it in my hand. "Hold it flat." I did. The needle swung, hesitated, then pointed north. "Find North before you follow anyone," he said. "Otherwise, you are just trusting another person's confusion." Daniel was 6 years older than me. He was not the kind of brother who delivered perfect speeches. He forgot birthdays, stole food from my plate, and once left me outside a movie theater for 40 minutes because he wrote down the wrong time. But when he paid attention, He made your problem feel like the only thing in the world worth solving. Before his final training rotation, he pushed the compass across the kitchen table. You keep it, you always use it, I know where north is. 3 months later, Daniel died during a vehicle training accident. Our house filled with uniforms, folded flags, covered dishes, condolence cards, and people who spoke about him in the past tense before I had learned how. Daniel had established a private education fund for me using savings and part of a benefit he had received. It was not enough to make me wealthy. It was enough to pay a substantial part of my tuition and keep me from beginning adulthood buried in debt. My father was listed as the temporary account manager because I had still been a minor when Daniel completed the paperwork. 1 month after the funeral, my mother called me into the dining room. A stack of documents waited on the table. The money is gone, she said. At first, I thought she meant the market had fallen or an administrative fee had been charged. Then she pushed the papers toward me. The account history showed withdrawals and electronic transfers. Beside them were login records connected to an email address containing my name. At the bottom of one page was a digital authorization. Mara E. Hayes, it looked almost right, almost. I didn't do this. My mother folded her hands. How much did you think his death was worth? I never accessed the account. The records say otherwise. Then the records are wrong. My father stood near the doorway. He did not sit with us. He did not look at the papers. He kept rubbing one thumb across his other hand. Dad. His eyes moved to the floor. Tell her. He said nothing. My mother leaned closer. You embarrassed this family while we were grieving. You took what your brother left and lied directly to our faces. I didn't take anything, then explain the transfers. I can't explain something I didn't do. That answer may work with strangers. It will not work here. By the end of the night, she had packed my clothes into a canvas bag. My father followed me to the porch. He pressed $40 into my hand. It was all he could manage, a secret act of kindness, small enough not to challenge my mother. I looked at the money, then at him. Do you believe I stole from Daniel? His mouth opened. No words came out. I pushed the bills back into his palm. The front door closed before I reached the sidewalk. I spent that night at a bus station. 3 days later, I spoke to an army recruiter. I did not enlist because I had always dreamed of wearing a uniform. I enlisted because the army offered structure, food, a bed, and a future that did not require my parents' permission. During basic training, I learned that panic and urgency were not the same thing. At my first duty station, I learned that rules could protect people when the people enforcing them were willing to apply them equally. Years later, when I entered the military police corps and completed crisis negotiation training, I learned something Daniel had understood on that foggy trail. Confidence was not direction, volume was not truth. And the person demanding that you follow fastest was often the person most afraid you would stop and look at the map. The week I left home, Caleb Rusk disappeared from my father's business. At the time, he was only a name I had seen on payroll envelopes and tax forms. 13 years later, he would hold my parents at gunpoint in room 214 of a roadside motel. And he would tell me exactly who had written my name onto the lie. After the hall emptied, Captain Brooks took me into her office. My mother's envelope sat inside a clear evidence sleeve on the desk between us. Captain Naomi Brooks was not warm in the conventional sense. She did not hug soldiers who were struggling or soften bad news until it became meaningless. She was fair. Fairness had always meant more to me than comfort. She removed her reading glasses. Did you take the money? No. Did you ever have access to the fund?
No.
Did you know the account password? No. Do you recognize the receiving accounts? No. She studied my face. I believe you. The words loosened something in my chest. Then she continued, but my belief does not replace verification. I understand. Your mother distributed copies to command staff, an army investigator, a local reporter, and a veterans organization associated with your brother. I stared at her. She sent them before the ceremony? Some were transmitted early this morning, so the interruption had been theater. The accusation was already moving through offices and inboxes before my mother entered the hall. Captain Brooks turned her computer screen toward me. A technical analyst had conducted a preliminary review of the digital file. The records appeared to show transactions from 13 years earlier, but the PDF itself had been assembled 9 days ago. That does not prove the underlying transactions are false, Brooks said. It proves the document she presented as an archived record is newly created. She rebuilt it, possibly. Why now? That is the correct question. I wanted to find my parents before they left the installation. I wanted to place the documents in front of my father and force him to speak while there were witnesses. Captain Brooks saw the decision forming in my face. No, I haven't said anything. You are preparing to chase them. They publicly accused me of a felony, and you are emotionally compromised. I can handle a conversation. You do not chase a lie because it insulted you. You make it stand still long enough to examine it. I looked toward the window. My reflection in the glass still wore the uniform prepared for the ceremony. The empty space where the new rank should have been looked larger than it was. Captain Brooks' desk phone rang, she answered. Her expression changed within seconds. A county crisis negotiator responding to an active hostage situation had been injured in a traffic collision. Local law enforcement was requesting assistance under an existing mutual aid agreement with the installation. 2 hostages, 1 armed suspect, a roadside motel less than 4 miles from the East Gate. The suspect had previously worked for a business serving military families. Brooks opened the duty roster. Our primary negotiator was attending training in another county. The second was on medical leave. I was certified and on site. She looked at me. Mayam, you are not stable enough for this. I am angry. That is not the same as unstable. Your family detonated your promotion ceremony 20 minutes ago. And I am still the qualified support negotiator closest to the scene. She held my gaze. The county incident commander remains in charge. You will provide negotiation support through the mutual aid framework. You do not assume control of the scene. Understood. You report any personal connection immediately. Yes, Mamam. You follow my direction and the county commander's direction. You do not improvise to protect your reputation. Yes, Manam. You keep your body camera active. Yes, ma'am. Our body camera system transmitted live video and audio to a secure command tablet while also recording locally. Brooks checked the connection herself. If the local file fails, the live feed may still preserve the transmission, she said. Do not touch the device unless ordered. I changed out of my ceremonial jacket and into duty gear. The body armor felt heavier than usual. I clipped the camera onto the front panel and checked the status light. Before leaving, I picked up Daniel's compass. The needle pointed north. I placed it in my pocket and drove toward the motel. Police vehicles blocked both ends of the access road. Officers had taken positions behind concrete planters, patrol cars, and the motel's laundry building. The motel itself was 2 stories of faded yellow paint, rusted railings, and exterior doors facing an open parking lot. A white sedan sat beneath the damaged neon sign. I knew the cracked left taillight. I knew the dent above the rear wheel. It was my mother's car. Captain Brooks came over the radio. Hayes, confirm. I looked at the vehicle again. Possible personal connection. How personal? The registered owner may be Elaine Hayes. A pause. Your mother? Yes, Mom, you are removed from direct contact until the county commander and I assess. Understood. I should have felt relieved. Instead, every instinct in me sharpened. A county lieutenant handed me the preliminary timeline. Elaine and Gordon Hayes had entered room 214 voluntarily at 6:43 p.m. Caleb Rusk arrived 8 minutes later carrying a black duffel bag. At 7:02, a guest heard shouting. At 7:05, a gunshot went through the ceiling. Nobody had been seen leaving. The hostages had not been dragged inside. They had come for a meeting. A county officer opened a line to the room. Caleb, my name is Deputy Morrison. I want to make sure everyone in there is safe. A male voice answered, frantic and breathless. I asked for time. We can give you time. No, give me Mara Hayes. Every person in the command area looked at me. The deputy covered the receiver. Does he know you? Not personally. From the speaker, Caleb shouted again. Put Mara on. She deserves to hear what they did. Captain Brooks' vehicle arrived. She stepped out, spoke briefly with the county incident commander, then approached me. You do not become the investigator in that room. Yes, Mom. You are a communication resource operating under county command. Yes, Mom. You do not make release guarantees, transportation promises, or legal offers. Understood. You tell me the moment your emotions interfere with your judgment. Yes, ma'am. The county commander authorized me to take the phone with Brooks supervising. I pressed it to my ear. This is Mara Hayes. Caleb laughed once. It was not amusement. It was the sound of a person whose fear had finally found an audience. "Your mother didn't come to your promotion to expose a crime," he said. "She came to finish framing you for it." Room 214 had one exterior door and a narrow bathroom window facing the rear alley. Thermal imaging showed 3 adults inside. One stood near the window. One sat on the bed, one moved repeatedly between the door and bathroom. Caleb refused to identify which figure was which. "Tell me if anyone is injured," I said. "Nobody was supposed to get hurt, that was not my question." A long breath. "Your father has a cut on his mouth." "Your mother's fine. Who fired the shot?" "I did." "Why?" "To make them listen. You arranged this meeting?" "Your father did." I looked toward Captain Brooks. She wrote a note and held it where only I could see. "Keep him talking, no promises." "Why did my father contact you?" "Because the old accounts are being reviewed." "What accounts?" "Your brother's fund, vendor accounts. Everything Elaine thought was buried." My mother's voice rose in the background. "He is lying, Mara." Hearing her say my name pulled the promotion hall back into my mind. The envelope, the rank on the floor, my father's covered wrist. I opened the compass inside my pocket, click, closed it. Click, slow breathing. "Caleb," I said, "I need your version in order. Start with your position at Hayes Construction." I handled bookkeeping and payroll. "And Daniel's education fund?" "Your father managed it." "That is not an answer." Caleb became quiet. Then he said, "Your mother found out the company was going under." My parents' business had expanded too quickly after Daniel enlisted. New trucks, a larger office, equipment leases, and contracts they could not support. By the time he died, they were buried in debt. Elaine knew Gordon had authority over the fund, Caleb continued. She said the money could be moved temporarily. How? Management fees, educational expenses, reimbursements tied to Daniel's estate. Fake expenses, yes, and you created them, yes. There was no pride in the answer. There was also no remorse. Only fear. "What did you receive, a percentage?" My mother spoke again. "He is admitting he stole it." Caleb shouted at her to be quiet. I waited for his breathing to slow. "What happened after the money was transferred?" "Elaine needed someone outside the company to blame." "So you chose me. I didn't choose you. You created the records." "I did what she paid me to do. You created an email address using my name." "Silence. You created login activity." "Silence. You attached my digital signature." "I never thought they would throw you out." That sentence almost broke my control. Not because it was believable, because it was cowardice disguised as surprise. "You fabricated evidence tying an 18-year-old girl to stolen money, and you never thought her life would be destroyed?" "I thought they would scare you, make you stop asking questions." "My mother told the entire town I stole from my dead brother." "I know." My father watched. "I know." The compass snapped shut in my hand. Click, Captain Brooks signaled for me to lower my voice. "I did. Why are you telling me now?" "Because they were going to give me to investigators." My mother laughed in the background. Caleb continued. "Elaine rebuilt the records. She created a new transaction trail. She's making it look like you and I stayed connected after you enlisted." "Why?" "Because if the old transactions come back, she needs one story that explains everything. A story in which the frightened daughter and corrupt accountant had worked together from the beginning. A story in which my army career had been funded by Daniel's stolen money. A story prepared for the exact day I was supposed to receive more authority, visibility, and responsibility." Captain Brooks wrote another question. "Ledger? Caleb, what are you trying to get from my parents?" "The original ledger." "What ledger?" "The one your father took." A choking sound came through the phone, followed by my mother saying, "Gordon, don't." Caleb's voice sharpened. "It lists every withdrawal, every fake vendor, every share. Mine, Gordon's, Elaine's. It proves she planned it." "Where is it?" "Your father has it." "Why?" "Because for the first time in his life he got scared enough to grow a conscience." My father spoke then. His voice was weak, one word. 13 years late, the sound reached deeper than my mother's accusation. "Dad, are you hurt?" "No, the mark on your wrist." My mother answered for him. "He fell in the garage." Let him answer. "He of Caleb?" Nobody spoke. I opened the compass. Click, closed it. Click. "Dad, what happened to your wrist?" He breathed into the phone. Elaine found the ledger. My mother hissed his name. He continued. "I was going to take it to an attorney." "Why now?" "The bank records were requested in another investigation." Caleb called. He said old vendor accounts were being examined. You knew I was innocent for 13 years. His breathing became uneven. I knew you didn't initiate the transfers. That is a careful way to say it. Mara, why is there a restraint mark on your wrist? He began to cry, not loudly. My father had always cried quietly, as though even grief required permission. She tied me to a chair in the garage. Several officers looked at one another. Captain Brooks' expression remained still. With what? I asked. A cargo strap. For how long? No, maybe 2 hours. Then why did you go to the promotion ceremony with her? She said if I refused, she would tell investigators I created everything with Caleb. Did you? I signed documents. That is not what I asked. I signed whatever she put in front of me. Did you benefit from the money? A pause. Yes. The answer did not shock me. It emptied the last space where hope had been hiding. My father had not suddenly become brave. He had become afraid of being left behind when the consequences arrived. Why did it take 13 years? I asked. Mara, I thought the business would recover. Why did it take 13 years? I thought we could repay it. Why did it take 13 years? He had no answer. Caleb interrupted. Show her the ledger. My father's breathing changed. Clothing rustled. Through the thermal feed, one figure stood from the bed. Slowly, Caleb ordered, open your coat. My father opened it. Taped flat against his chest was a thick brown envelope. My mother's voice lost its smoothness for the first time. Gordon, don't you dare. Caleb began laughing. There it is. My father removed the envelope. My mother moved toward him. Caleb shouted at her to stop. The room became noise. Caleb's commands, my mother's denial, my father's pleading. I raised my voice just enough to cut through it. Everyone stopped moving. The command worked for less than 2 seconds. It was enough. Caleb, keep your weapon pointed away from Gordon. I decide where the weapon points. You called me because you wanted the truth heard. If someone dies before the ledger leaves that room, the evidence becomes part of a homicide scene you created. His breathing slowed slightly. Place the ledger where everyone can see it. My father set the envelope on the small table. My mother stared at it. Thermal imaging could not show her expression, but I knew it. The same expression she had worn when she closed our front door 13 years earlier. Not grief, calculation. Caleb allowed my father to open the envelope. The ledger was not a formal accounting book. It was a collection of printed spreadsheets, handwritten notes, photocopied invoices, and bank confirmations. Caleb ordered Gordon to read several entries aloud. A payment to a tutoring company that did not exist. A reimbursement for university housing during a year I was still in high school. A consulting fee routed to an account connected to Caleb. A transfer marked as an estate preservation expense. Beside several entries were my father's initials. Others carried short handwritten instructions in my mother's handwriting. Reroute, break below reporting threshold, use MH. Access record. I looked at Captain Brooks. She had already arranged for investigators to preserve the call and document each entry for later verification. Then my father reached a page near the back. He stopped. Caleb told him to continue. My mother said that page means nothing. My father read the entry, MH restitution transfer. The date was 11 days earlier. What does it mean? I asked. No one answered. Caleb? He sounded confused. That wasn't in the original ledger. My mother remained silent. I understood before he did. The newly created bank records, the distribution to command staff and reporters. The public accusation, it had not simply been an attempt to hurt me. It was a foundation. Elaine, I said, what account received the restitution transfer? I don't know what you were talking about. You brought records to my ceremony claiming I stole the money 13 years ago. They are real. The file was created 9 days ago. I had old records converted, and 11 days ago someone added a transaction labeled with my initials. No answer. Caleb began turning pages. There's a new account number here. My mother said you added it. No, you altered the ledger. I haven't seen this copy in years. Their voices rose. The plan became visible in the spaces between their accusations. If investigators reopened the old theft, my mother would say Caleb and I had remained connected after I left home. The new transfer would appear to be money I had returned after years of guilt. The promotion ceremony gave her witnesses. She could claim she finally confronted me because my advancement created a moral obligation to speak. She had intended to transform 13 years of service into evidence of concealment. Every deployment, every evaluation, every promotion. Every dollar I earned legally, all of it would become part of her story. My mother had not come to prevent the army from rewarding a thief. She had come to create the thief she still needed. You ran because guilty people run, she said. Her voice was calm again. She knew exactly where to place the blade. For a moment I was 18 years old beneath the porch light with a canvas bag at my feet. The old need rose inside me. Make her admit it, make Dad speak. Make everyone understand. I opened Daniel's compass. The needle shook. I had been gripping it at an angle. I flattened my hand. The needle steadied. Find north before you follow anyone. My mother wanted me to follow her into the argument. She needed me emotional, defensive, desperate. Instead, I asked Caleb how many rounds were in his weapon. He hesitated. What? Is there anyone in that room who needs immediate medical attention? No. Is the door blocked? No. Is the bathroom window open? My mother said, she doesn't care what you did to us. I ignored her. Caleb, you said you wanted the ledger. You have it. I need a vehicle. We can discuss your surrender options after one hostage is released. I'm not surrendering. You are holding the evidence and the people who can authenticate it. You do not need both hostages. I know how this works. Then you know keeping 2 people increases the number of things you cannot control. My mother laughed softly. She's stalling until they shoot you. Caleb cursed at her. She continued. She wears a uniform and believes she is better than us. Better than you. The moment you open that door, she will let them put a bullet through your skull. Elaine, I said, you don't get to call me that. Stop provoking the armed man standing 5 feet from you. I am trying to survive. No, you are trying to control the room. The line went quiet. I had named the thing she believed no one else could see. Captain Brooks slid a note toward me, movement near purse. Thermal imaging showed my mother crouching beside the bed. She said she needed medication. My heart is racing. Caleb ordered my father to retrieve her purse. The bag had been placed near the nightstand. My father pulled it toward him. My mother reached inside. I heard a soft metallic sound through the phone, not a pill bottle. Not a zipper, a mechanical click, the release of a safety. I looked at Captain Brooks. She may have a weapon. Brooks transmitted the warning to the county tactical commander. Inside the room, my mother said, I found it. Her voice remained steady. She had not drawn the gun yet. Caleb still believed he was the only armed person inside. I had made the mistake of treating Elaine as a manipulative hostage instead of an active threat. I knew her history. I understood her need for control. I had still underestimated how far she would go to destroy the evidence. That mistake could cost 3 lives. Caleb, I said, your situation has changed. What are you talking about? I want Gordon released. No, he is showing signs of medical distress. My father had not reported chest pain, but his breathing had become shallow and erratic. The possibility was credible. You keep the ledger, I continued. You retain 1 hostage. Gordon comes out. My mother said he is not leaving. Caleb snapped at her. You don't decide. I know what is in that ledger. So do I. You know the numbers. You don't know what they mean. My mother was buying time. The tactical team moved into the exterior stairwell. A shield operator took position below the 2nd floor landing. Another officer covered the rear bathroom window. My body camera transmitted the phone conversation, my breathing, and the faint click of Daniel's compass opening and closing inside my hand. Click, 4 counts in, click, 4 counts out. Caleb opened the door 6 inches. Gordon steps out. Nobody approaches until the door closes. I'm not giving up the ledger, then keep it. No. My father spoke. I'll go. My mother's tone sharpened. You will stay where you are. Elaine, this is over. No, Gordon, it is over if you walk through that door. He moved toward the entrance. Thermal imaging showed my mother grabbing him from behind. Let go of him, Caleb shouted. The door opened 3 inches. For the first time I saw the room directly. My father's face appeared in the gap. Blood marked his lower lip. His coat hung open. The brown envelope was pressed to his chest. My mother's hand held the back of his collar. Caleb stood behind them with his weapon raised. Dad, I said, step forward. He looked at me. 13 years disappeared for half a second. I saw the father who had once taught me to drive, the man who waited in the rain after school when my bus broke down, the father who existed before fear became his only decision. Then my mother pulled him backward. The door opened wider. Her other hand came from beneath her coat, a compact pistol. Caleb swung toward her. 2 weapons now crossed over my father's body. Officers moved behind the shield. My mother pointed at Caleb. He forced us to come here. Caleb shouted, you arranged the meeting. He threatened our family. you were going to give them my name. You stole the money. You designed the whole thing. My father dropped to his knees between them, still holding the envelope. Nobody had a clean angle. Caleb's weapon tracked my mother. My mother's weapon tracked Caleb. My father's head moved between both lines of fire. Captain Brooks spoke quietly. The county tactical commander is ready. I watched my father on his knees. For years I had imagined confronting him. In those fantasies I was always alone. I forced him to admit the truth. I demanded answers. I controlled the ending, but this was not my private reckoning. It was an armed standoff under county command. This is your family, Brooks said, but it is not your operation alone. I nodded. Recommend intervention preparation. Brooks relayed the recommendation. The county commander authorized the tactical team to move to its final positions, but delayed entry while I attempted to clear my father from the crossfire. That decision mattered more than I understood at the time. The old Mara would have believed accepting help meant surrendering control. The soldier I had become understood something different. Trust was not handing your life to another person. Trust was recognizing when one person could no longer carry every threat in the room. I raised the phone. Caleb, look at Gordon, I am looking. No, look at what your weapon is covering. His breathing changed. You wanted evidence. If you fire, you may kill the man who can authenticate it. My mother said, he will never testify. My father looked toward her. She had said it too quickly, too confidently. Caleb noticed. What does that mean? It means Gordon has never finished a brave act in his life. My father's face collapsed. My mother continued because she believed cruelty was still control. He tried to take the ledger. He couldn't even get out of the garage. You restrained him, I said. I stopped him from destroying what remained of this family. You tied him to a chair. I protected him from panic. My father loosened his grip on the envelope. It slid toward the doorway. Caleb moved. My mother moved faster. She fired. The shot struck the metal doorframe inches from Caleb's shoulder. The tactical team advanced. I grabbed my father by the back of his coat and pulled him across the threshold. His weight carried both of us into the exterior wall. My body camera struck the corner of a metal fire extinguisher cabinet. The impact flashed white through my vision. Plastic cracked. The camera lens split. The status light vanished beneath a broken fragment. I hit the walkway on one shoulder. The phone skidded from my hand. Inside room 214, Caleb screamed. My mother shouted that he had fired first. The tactical team stopped for a fraction of a second because Gordon's legs still blocked the doorway, and the two armed suspects had moved behind the interior wall. I rolled onto my back. Air returned painfully. My father lay beside me, stunned but alive. My mother looked directly at the broken camera on my vest. She saw the shattered lens. She saw no visible status light. Something in her face relaxed. She believed the witness attached to my body had died. She was wrong. The local recording unit had been damaged. The live audio feed was still reaching Brooks's command tablet. My mother backed deeper into the motel room. Caleb had a shallow wound across the top of his shoulder where metal fragments from the doorframe had cut him. He still held his weapon. My mother still held hers. The tactical team could hear them but could not see both targets. I remained on the walkway beside the doorway. My body camera hung crooked from its mount. The broken lens faced the concrete. The microphone continued transmitting. My mother did not know that. Caleb, I called, put the weapon down. He'll kill me, my mother shouted. Caleb laughed in disbelief. You just shot at me. You kidnapped us. You came here to trade the ledger. You threatened Gordon. You tied Gordon to a chair. My mother changed tactics. Her voice softened. Caleb, listen to me. There is still a way out. Shut up. Gordon created the accounts. His name is on everything. You told him where to sign. He chose to sign. My father flinched beside me. For the first time, my mother was telling the truth about him. She continued, if Gordon dies, the chain ends with him. My father looked toward the room. Caleb said, what are you suggesting? I am saying you do not need him. You are telling me to shoot your husband. I am telling you that one weak man should not destroy 3 lives. Her definition of 3 lives did not include mine. It never had. Caleb's breathing came hard through the open doorway. You said the same thing about Mara. My mother did not answer. You said she was young, Caleb continued. You said nobody would believe her. She was 18. You used her name. She was leaving anyway. My chest tightened. Caleb pushed harder. You built the fake email. You built it. You gave me the information. You were paid. You chose the fund. Silence. The parking lot held its breath. My mother believed she was speaking only to Caleb, Gordon, me, and the officers immediately outside. She believed the body camera had stopped preserving her words. When she answered, her voice contained no fear, only irritation at having to explain what she considered obvious. Daniel was dead. My father covered his face. The money was alive, she said. I chose what could still save the family. The words entered me more cleanly than any scream could have. Daniel was dead. The money was alive. She had reduced my brother's final gift to available capital. She had reduced me to an expendable signature. No, I said. You chose what obeyed you. My mother stepped closer to the doorway but remained behind the wall. You think that uniform makes you righteous? No. You think rank changes what you did? I did not take the money. You ran, you threw me out, you could have stayed and fought. With what? You controlled the documents. Dad controlled the account. Caleb controlled the records. You always had an excuse. And you always needed me guilty. She laughed. You were perfect for it. Captain Brooks' eyes met mine from behind the shield. The audio was still transmitting every word. My mother continued. You were 18, angry, no attorney, no savings. No one would question why you disappeared after taking the money. Caleb said, tell her about the new records. My mother cursed him. He shouted, tell her, I rebuilt what already existed. You created a new transfer to show continuity. There was no continuity, there needed to be. My father made a sound beside me. Not quite a sob, my mother heard him. Stop crying, Gordon. You signed the first documents. You signed the statement saying Mara had access. You stood beside me at the ceremony. I wanted to tell them, he whispered. You wanted to save yourself. Again, she was telling the truth. Then she added the part that condemned her. I brought Mara back into the records because investigators understand patterns. A thief who steals once can steal again. A daughter who runs can keep running. All I had to do was remind everyone who she had always been. The woman in the promotion hall had not been revealing an old wound. She had been manufacturing a pattern for investigators. The newly created statements, the restitution entry, the distribution to reporters, all of it was designed to make the lie feel older than the evidence. Caleb said, you're finished. My mother's voice dropped. So are you. I saw movement in the shadow beneath the door. Her feet shifted. She was turning her weapon toward Caleb again. Captain Brooks raised 2 fingers. The county commander authorized intervention. I moved my hand away from my father and pressed my palm flat against the concrete. The tactical team acted. A diversionary device sounded outside the bathroom window, away from the civilians in the parking lot. Caleb turned toward the rear wall. The SHIELD team entered through the front. One officer drove Caleb's weapon arm toward the wall. Another seized my mother's wrist before she could fire. Her pistol struck the carpet. A third officer pulled Caleb backward and forced him to the floor. My mother screamed my name, not for help, in accusation. As if my survival were still an offense committed against her. I kept my father's head from striking the concrete while officers pulled him clear. Within seconds, both weapons were secured. Caleb was handcuffed. My mother was pinned against the carpet, one wrist controlled behind her back. She twisted toward me. She planned this, she shouted. Mara planned all of it. She brought him here. She knew about the ledger. Captain Brooks walked past me and entered the room. She returned carrying the brown envelope in one gloved hand. Then she crouched beside me and removed the damaged body camera from my vest. The lens was destroyed. The outer housing was cracked. The audio transmission indicator inside the rear panel continued flashing. My mother saw it. Her face changed. Captain Brooks looked at the camera, then at her. The lens broke, she said. The truth didn't. Evidence does not become reliable because it gives you the answer you want. Captain Brooks reminded me of that during the investigation. The body camera transmission was powerful, but it was not enough by itself. Investigators compared my mother's statements with the ledger. Some of the original banking records no longer existed in complete form. 13 years had passed, accounts had closed, one institution had merged with another. Several archived files were incomplete. The missing pieces did not erase what remained. The ledger matched transaction identifiers preserved in older account summaries. Several vendor companies listed in it had never operated. The email address created in my name had been registered through an office computer associated with Caleb's work. Login activity had been routed through equipment used by Hayes Construction. The digital signature attached to the authorization did not match the signature format used on my legitimate records at the time. The new restitution entry had been created less than 2 weeks before my promotion ceremony. No money had actually moved. My mother had designed the appearance of a transaction so she could later present it as proof that I was returning stolen funds. Caleb surrendered additional files through his attorney. Cooperation did not erase his crimes. He had helped create the fraud. He had accepted money. He had taken 2 people hostage and discharged a firearm inside an occupied motel. My father confirmed his signatures. He admitted he knew I had not initiated the transfers. He admitted he allowed my mother to blame me because challenging her would have exposed the company's collapse and his own involvement. Elaine faced allegations connected to fraud, fabrication of evidence, unlawful restraint, firearms offenses, and her conduct during the hostage incident. Gordon faced consequences for false statements, fraudulent transactions, and benefiting from the stolen funds. The exact outcomes would be decided slowly through hearings, motions, negotiations, and courts. Real consequences rarely arrive with one dramatic gavel strike. They arrive as doors closing one at a time. The Army investigation cleared me of involvement in the theft. The reporter who received my mother's documents published a correction. The Veterans Organization associated with Daniel issued a statement acknowledging that the accusation had been unsupported. None of those things erased 13 years, but the lie no longer belonged to me. 3 weeks after the motel incident, Captain Brooks rescheduled my promotion. There were no reporters, no live stream, no extended family. Only my unit, a few civilian staff members, and the people who had continued standing beside me while the evidence was examined. Before the ceremony, Brooks called me into her office. A small black box sat on her desk. Inside was the insignia that had fallen to the stage during the first ceremony. The metal carried a tiny scratch along one edge. "I thought you might want it," she said. I looked at it. That one never reached the uniform. No, she placed a new pair of insignia beside it. "The old rank belongs to the day someone tried to define you." She lifted the new insignia. "This one belongs to the record." During the ceremony, she pinned the new rank onto my uniform. The room applauded. I did not feel triumphant. Triumph would have meant my mother hadn't taken something from me and the Army had returned it. That was not what happened. My rank had never belonged to her. Afterward, Captain Brooks invited me to speak. I looked at the soldiers in front of me. Some had heard the accusation. Some had seen the recording online. Some had worked the motel scene. I kept my words short. "Thank you for pausing the ceremony without abandoning me." Captain Brooks nodded once. That was enough. I visited my father before his preliminary hearing. He sat behind a glass partition wearing a plain detention uniform. Without my mother beside him, he looked smaller but not more innocent. For several seconds, neither of us picked up the phone. Then he lifted his receiver. "I did the same. You got the promotion," he said. Yes, Daniel would have been proud. The sentence angered me more than I expected. "You don't get to use him that way." His face tightened. "I didn't mean you used his name to accuse me. You used his money to save the company. Now you want to use his memory to make this conversation easier." He lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry. For which part?" "All of it. That is not an answer." He looked older than 60. The mark around his wrist had faded to yellow. "Elaine controlled everything," he said. "She created the plan, yes. She fabricated the records. Yes, she restrained you, yes." He looked relieved each time I named something she had done, as if my words were constructing an exit for him. "Then I closed it, but the signatures were yours." His mouth stopped moving. "You signed the withdrawals. You signed the statement saying I accessed the account. You watched her pack my clothes. You stood in the doorway when I asked whether you believed me. I was afraid. For 13 years, I thought she would destroy what was left of the family. She already had. I didn't know how to stop her. You could have said one sentence." He began to cry. "I wanted to, but you didn't. I tried with the ledger. When you knew investigators were coming, I was going to tell them everything. When silence stopped protecting you, he pressed one hand to the glass. She made the lie." I looked at his hand, the same hand that had accepted $40 back from me on the porch. The same hand that had signed my name away. "She wrote the lie," I said. "You kept signing it every day. You stayed silent." He closed his eyes. For a moment I almost felt cruel. Then I remembered being 18 at a bus station, counting coins for food while my father slept in the house Daniel's money had helped preserve. "I need you to tell them she forced me," he said. There it was. The final request, not forgiveness, not truth. Another carefully shaped sentence he wanted me to carry for him. "She restrained you before the ceremony," I said. "I will tell the truth about that. She controlled me for years. I will not testify to something I did not witness. You know what she was like. I know what you chose." His hand fell from the glass. "Can you ever forgive me?" I did not give him the answer he wanted. I also did not give him the permanent condemnation he seemed to expect. "I saved your life because it was my duty," he looked at me. "What happens to our relationship will depend on what you do when no gun is pointed at you." The visiting officer signaled that time was ending. My father pressed the phone closer. "Mara," I waited. He looked as though he wanted to say the sentence he had failed to say 13 years earlier. "I believe you. You were innocent. I should have protected you." Any one of them might have mattered. Instead, he whispered, "I'm scared." I returned the receiver to its cradle. So was I. Then I left. That night I opened the black box Captain Brooks had given me. I placed the scratched insignia inside. Beside it, I set a copy of my promotion order. Then I removed Daniel's brass compass from my pocket. The case had warmed against my body. I opened the lid. The needle moved. For years I carried the compass because it felt like the last honest thing anyone in my family had given me. I believed Daniel's memory was pointing me away from them. Away from the accusation. Away from the house. Away from the girl they had declared guilty. But a compass does not point away from anything. It points toward a fixed direction and leaves the traveler to decide what to do with it. I set it beside the old insignia. The needle trembled once. Then it settled. For 13 years, my parents told the world I had stolen my future from a dead soldier. In the end, I did not take anything back from them. I did not need my mother to confess because she loved me. I did not need my father to become brave enough to rewrite my childhood. I did not need Caleb to become a good man simply because his fear exposed the truth. I only needed to stop carrying the lie they had placed in my hands. Once I did, the evidence carried itself, the ledger. The surviving records, the false signatures, the newly created transfer. The damaged body camera that kept listening after my mother believed she had silenced it. My brother had been right. Lost people often look confident. For years, I had mistaken my mother's certainty for direction and my father's silence for helplessness. Neither was true. One was control, the other was consent. I closed the compass and turned off the light. The next morning, I fastened my new rank onto my uniform. Then I walked out the door without checking whether anyone behind me approved. I already knew where North was.